Yes, yes. Good evening, Rasko and Disco beer review with me, Disco, coming at you live. Unusually, me coming live at the top of the show. You normally expect to be seeing Rasko here, but for tonight, for now, it's me at the top of the show. I'm starting off. Rasko is a little bit delayed. He'll be coming along shortly. And our guest for this evening, as I'm sure you've all seen by the promos we put out, is Wraggy of Wraggy's Beers, Wines and Spirits Reviews, both here and on YouTube. And I see loads of people popping in. Good evening to you for popping in already. Might have a chance of seeing some of the comments tonight. I know on Thursday night we had a hell of a job because there was a lot of conversation going on, seeing all the comments rolling through. So thank you everybody for joining us. If I get it right, it will be at some point soon. I know I've been speaking. What's the crack? Hello. Good evening. Oi. Yeah, just me for a little bit, filling in for a little while because I know Wraggy was on YouTube earlier, watching him live doing a video. I was just doing a quick YouTube short and then he'll be along shortly. And having said that, here is the man himself. Evening, Kevin. Thanks for popping in. Good to see you. Cheers. What's everybody drinking tonight? I'm doing a little fill-in beer before we get to the main. Wraggy, good evening, sir.
Good evening. You all right?
Good to see you again. I know it was only 10 minutes ago over on YouTube, but I'm glad you made the jump, sir. Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, this is different, isn't it? It's like being in somebody else's front room.
Well, literally, I mean, it's like being in your shed because you are literally live from what I'm laughingly calling the Disco Arms, which is actually just a bar pushed in, a cabinet pushed into the corner as a bar of my front room. So welcome along, sir, to the Rasko and Disco show. Now, you might notice a little bit short of Rasko at the moment. He was out tonight in Croydon Town Centre with some Oktoberfest business.
Oh,
so he will be along shortly. He's a little bit delayed getting back across the town centre, but as they say in show business, or well, YouTube, Instagram business, the show must go on. So here we are.
Let's crack a beer open then. And what better beer? Wraggy's.
Right here, I was pleased to get hold of this stuff. Now, as you know, I've had one of these before, and I know you've had one or two before.
Yes.
I did love
two, actually.
Yeah, I did love that when you got them in and you just put them all up on the back rack there where the other beers usually are.
Yeah.
How many did you get in?
64 in total. So I went to the brewery shop and I went with 120 quid.
Yeah.
And at the brewery you can get it for a better price than you can online. You know, that's what it is.
Fair enough,
I ended up buying 64 in total. Yeah.
I tell you what, the first thing I noticed, and certainly on yours and on mine as well, there's a much brighter head on that, much bubblier head. The last one I had was kind of, it wasn't flat, it was carbonated and bubbly, but there's a slightly bigger head on this one. Have you noticed any variation?
I reckon it's growing in the bottle. The age is helping it.
Possibly so, maybe so. Anyway, cheers, Wraggy.
Cheers, matey.
Normally what we do on the show, Wraggy, we didn't do it this week, but normally Rasko sends a message and say, when we interview beer reviewers, can you do a beer review live on the show in your style? I didn't this week because I knew he was drinking this, and you've done a lot of beer reviews of these almost already, haven't you? But are you able to? Yeah, can you just give us a couple of minutes, like what you would have said on the beer review, just to give us the points that we're looking at in this beer?
So, golden colour, Good carbonation, as you can see. You can see in the glass. It's dead weird. You know, because it's that way instead of normally that way. So I'll get there. Yeah, little white head on this. On cask, this is a different beast than it is in a bottle. In a bottle, it's more carbonated. On cask, it is, you know, for a session ale, let's be fair, it's only 3.8%. So it's a sessionable beer. It's not an Imperial Stout, but there's citrus aroma to it. There's a nice bite on the tongue. That's what I get. I get spiciness, much more pronounced in the bottled version than the cask version. Much more spicy, but overall, you know, a very easy drinking beer. I've spoke to a lot of people. Only one of my friends didn't like it, and there's all beers we do or don't like, you know. So that's the thing with being a beer drinker. And but yeah, I was speaking to, even my wife likes this, which is really unusual for her. I mean, in the pub, we had this woman talking to us, and she says, "Oh, I'll try it then." And she actually tried it and drank the whole pint. And she's not a beer drinker, so it's Lincoln Green did a very good thing at what they did. You know, making it sessionable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't necessarily. I've seen a couple of people say that it's like a kind of spiciness, pepperiness. I don't necessarily get that. I don't mind a bit of spiciness in a beer, a bit of, you know, there's kind of notes through the yeast and hops going on. But I don't get that. But it doesn't matter. It's still a really good beer. Like you say, it's proper sessionable. I get more lemony kind of citrus on it. Sort of a lemony note to it.
Right. See, I don't get that. It's just I get the citrus all day long, but I don't get the lemony. And it's amazing what we all get. I've watched everybody's reviews, and everybody gets a hint of something different. But that's what makes us all beer drinkers. You know, what we get is different.
For sure, yeah, absolutely. But I think doing a golden ale like they've done is kind of, it's got a broader appeal again because it's a 3.8%. You can try it and knock it back fairly easy. I mean, I did a little bit of work in the garden, so when I reviewed it, it was a nice, refreshing pint straight out of the fridge, and proper refreshed with that. With what I got with those lemons, not too heavy on the citrus, not too like grapefruity or anything. Just I prefer a lemony kind of citrus and grapefruit. I know, again, probably been asked this 100 times, but how did that conversation go down? Did they just? I saw the tweet they put out about doing a beer. Did they tell you first, or did they just get on the phone and go, "Wraggy, we're doing this beer. Are you in or what?"
Yeah, it went on Facebook, and they put a Facebook thing saying we're going to brew a beer in honour of Nottingham beer reviewer Wraggy, whose kind reviews during, you know, most of it's during COVID, you know. I mean, obviously everywhere was shut, so beer reviewers really came to the front in COVID, because I mean, if you look at my channel before COVID, I've been doing beer reviews for 2 years. I didn't even know there was other beer reviewers apart from 2 people, and I was on about 400 viewers, subscribers in 2 years. And then since COVID, obviously it's shot up. And obviously they are good beers. They're traditional, but in a modern style.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I've been aware of Lincoln Green before, just from travelling around the country, and probably had them in, I guess, Nottingham about. But this is the first time I actually got like an order in or anything, and probably because it got your face on, but also there was some good beers on the list that's worth getting in.
Yeah, I mean, good evening.
Better late than never. Here he is. He's not even home, are you? You're still out, aren't you, Rasko?
Yeah, I'm still out. I'm at Matthew's Yard in Croydon, and they're celebrating Oktoberfest. I thought come out in immense pain because my back and shoulder is killing me. Sink a few Oktoberfest beers to try and kill the pain. It's not working, so I'm going to come home in a bit.
Some whiskey down.
in the most quiet place in the venue, and I'm drinking a Norwegian Oktoberfest Stout, and it's fucking gorgeous. This is my fourth half of it, and it's 12%. So yeah, it's great, fellas. Honestly, I'll see you in a bit. Wraggy, I'm glad I heard you what you're saying. We've never met virtually. I'm going to see you in about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20. That's all I'm going to say for all my fans, and I mean my fans. Right, my fans. Yeah, no. Don't worry, I'm coming.
All right, mate. We'll see you in a bit. It's a good little bit of outside broadcast reporting, though. Thanks for bringing us a 12% stout.
Yeah, all right. I'll see you in a bit, fellas. Right, see you in a bit. Bye.
We say every week, Wraggy, that it wouldn't be a Rasko and Disco show without something going wrong. It's normally a bit of pixelization or Instagram, but we've never not done a show. We've never done a show with Rasko just being 20 minutes late because he's on a 12% stout. But these things happen, you know. What can you do?
Well, I was supposed to be going live last night, and 2 minutes before I was going live, we had some issues, so I couldn't. I had to cancel it altogether, and then just do a quick normal beer review. But these things happen, don't they? Internet and issues.
I don't want to ignore everybody in the comments, but what is everybody else drinking in the comments, by the way? Rasko's being on a 12% stout. We're on the Wraggy's Golden Ale, 3.8%. What is everybody else drinking in the comments? We'll pull them as we go through. But so we were talking about Lincoln Green gave you a shout. What happened on the brew day? How did that? First of all, did you decide Golden Ale? That they decided Golden Ale. They decided.
No, so I mean, if it had been me, it'd have probably been an Imperial Stout. But I can understand why they chose the Golden Ale, 3.8%, because it's going to appeal to the mass majority.
Yeah,
and you've got to think that in pubs that lower ABV beers, session beers, sell the most in pubs. So not amongst the craft beer community. No, we all drink strong beers. But amongst pub drinkers, they want lower ABV. So it's got broad appeal.
Yeah, sure.
And it was a great day. I mean, what I wish I'd have done some bloody videos. I didn't take any videos. So in some ways, I'm gutted that I didn't. But you live and learn, don't you? And they showed me through the process of how they have a program that helps them with the amount of malts needed for the beers.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
So there's some guesswork involved, but not all new guesswork. And then I went up and mixed all the malts, measured it out, mixed the malts, stirred it round, and that went into the the first, what do you call it? The mash tun?
Yeah.
No, was it the mash tun? So the first bit where the malt drops into, then there's hot water in there, and then they have this thing going on the top, around the top, that sends water through, and that goes into another container. And is that the mash tun? No, the mash tun's the first one. The second one's the condition. I think that's the conditioning tank. The copper. I got there in the end. And then that went into the copper, and then they added the hops in the copper. Or did they? Some hops went into the copper. And while it was in there, it brewed for however long it brewed for, and then it went into the fermentation tank. And do you know, it's I mean, as a home brewer, you think you know so much, but when you get in and you see it done properly, you know nothing.
I guess it's a slightly different process when you're actually in the brewery with all the proper equipment and you're on the homebrew.
There's so much to take in.
Yeah.
And I'd need to do it about 20 times before I understood it properly.
I see there. What's the crack? He's on the Northern Monk Faith, a classic. So classic, I've not actually tried it. I don't think I've not actually got around to that, but a good beer, I'm told. So,
Decent,
yeah. Did they have you shoveling out the mash tun afterwards as well? Is traditional, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I'm a gardener, but he didn't
using the shovel.
So, using the shovel, any gardener, digging out a couple of tons of mash of barley or whatever it is, the molds.
Yeah.
I'm a gardener, so that sort of thing's dead easy for me. It was like, whoa. The only thing is, the shovel they used wasn't perfect for the job, so it was a bit awkward in places. But it was. I thought that was an easy side of things. But I suppose in some ways the bigger the unit. I'm not sure if it was 2,300 litres, the tank that they used. So, or was it 1,500? I know there's a bit of difference, but.
Hi, Thomas. Cheers, Bobby. I've never worked out why they've not made that more mechanical rather than having to shovel it out by hand. But I guess some breweries do. I guess size. I don't know.
I think on the bigger breweries, it's a case of pressing a button, something lifts up inside, and it all just drops out, and then they have it's all automated, which I suppose takes the fun out of it in some ways. I suppose, and then some of the hardship as well. But it was a great experience, as beer reviewers, any beer reviewers.
Yeah, sure.
Over and said, need to use a spade.
Spade to scoop. What's the difference between a spade, a shovel, and a scoop? I don't know. It's something about the shape in it. I think. I don't know. I can't remember.
That's what you call a spade. You see, as a gardener, a spade is flat, and then someone hands you a shovel. Here's a spade, mate, and I'm like, that's a shovel, not a really spade. They're two different things. But in America, there may be something that a spade might be different over there.
This is true. Yeah, spade, shovel, pick, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. So you enjoyed the day at the brewery anyway?
Yeah, and they let me know some of their secrets. Obviously, I can't say all of them, but some of the stuff they do, and there's a lot more complexities to it than you can understand. How much for an autographed bottle of Wraggy's? I'm just a nobody from Nottingham, just somebody like beer.
I would say that's priceless, but I know some people are coming up to see you in Nottingham in a few weeks. So if you sign one of their bottles, they might not drink it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so it's like the beer review community's coming to Nottingham. You've got Adam, Mersey Beers, Harry, Blue Nose Beers, and the man himself, Rob, from Hopzine. So that'll be, and then we've got all the beer community people that are coming. So it's going to be there's going to be quite a few people there. Yeah, it should be a good laugh.
I'm not. Well, I am jealous a little bit because I thought when we heard about it several months ago, I thought everything will be sorted out by now. I'll be able to go up there, but I haven't been to Nottingham for quite a few years, and it's a place I've only ever. I've stayed there a couple of times, but I've only ever really passed through because we used to go to Mansfield for football, so we would always change Nottingham, go to the pub down by the canal for a couple of pints and just sort of like spend a couple of hours changing trains there. So I do have a big love for Nottingham, going out in Nottingham. That's a fair point. Your numbers, Wraggy, have shot up because of who you are, not due to lockdown. It's an interesting question. Obviously, you were doing beer reviews before lockdown.
Yeah.
Can you remember? Here's a question for you. Can you remember what the first beer review you put up was?
Yeah. Oh yeah, John Smith's.
Smooth or original?
The extra smooth. Yeah.
It's a beer. Why not? I'm glad you can remember, and I'll tell you because I was actually scrolling back down through your YouTube earlier just to see if I could find out. It's taking too bloody long. because there was a lot of stuff on there. And
see, for me, the beer reviews, it was always, and it is always about me having a sneaky beer down the shed, and and it's an excuse to have a beer and just chat. And in a lot of the ways, you know, before people used to watch, before I knew people were really watching, it was just a way of sometimes venting and talking. And you know, if you've been in the job where you're by yourself all day and not talking,
yeah,
and or especially in a bad job, you know, that ability just to let a bit of steam off or something, and then just talk crap about beers as well. And it's a learning process. You know, any beer.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get everything from every beer. You look on the beer review websites like Beer Advocate, and you see what they get out of beers, and you think to yourself, rubbish, I don't get any of that. That's some people, oh, I get coriander, I get a biscuit, and I get this, and I'm like, bollocks, did you? You know, you didn't get any of that. But obviously people get what they get, you know.
Well, it's like I said, I don't particularly get any spiciness or anything off of this, but I can see.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
It's just a quick one. I say Mersey Beer's very perceptive of you, Adam. Where's Rasko, by the way? We spoke to Rasko about 10 minutes ago. He's been out in Croydon for some Oktoberfest beers. We spoke to him about 10 minutes ago. He did pop in briefly for live. He had a 12% Norwegian Oktoberfest Stout on, as you do, over the other side of Croydon. He said he'll head home, and we might see him in 15-20 minutes. But he did have a good 2/3 of a 12% Stout, so I'm not sure, even as hardcore as he is, whether we'll see him by past, I think, at the earliest. So we'll see. But yeah, Adam, Rasko is on his way. Typical Rasko and Disco beer show thing that it doesn't always go to plan, but we'll see. In the meantime, we're having a perfectly perfectly fun conversation with Wraggy, and Rasko will only come in and ask all the same questions again. So we apologise for that, Wraggy, but it's all a good. Like, it's like I always maintain this show is just like if we'd met at the bar. Do you know what I mean? If we'd been up Lincoln or tap room or whatever, or pub in Nottingham, we're just having a chat. You know, obviously we know a little bit about each other because we've seen each other sort of like, you know, virtually. It's like Rasko said about meeting virtually. So we just have a chat. That's what we like use the socials for, really. And I think to a certain extent you say the same as well, don't you? Really?
Yeah. It's all about meeting people, isn't it? If there's something that the last year and a half has proved to us all, that just chatting to people, even if it is virtually, is a good thing. You know, that ability. You know, the worst thing is being stuck in a home on your own and not getting out, and especially if things have gone downhill. And that's where, for me, beer reviews, especially beer reviews and beer chats, because this is more chat than review.
Yeah.
That's where the lives come into their own, because on the lives there's that interaction that you don't get when you just film a beer review. And when I breached the 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, because obviously YouTube played around, before you didn't need 1,000, then all of a sudden you did. And since then I've found out that you can go on StreamYard with 10 subscribers and do lives. Yeah. So it's amazing, that is, isn't it? You know, I didn't know this. Otherwise I'd have done it earlier. But the community, you know, it was doing lives that brought me into the community, and I noticed a lot more. You see certain names popping up, especially people's names with beer review on. You think, oh, yeah, there's a beer reviewer watching me, and it's like, oh shit. And I bet he's looking at me thinking, he's crap. But you know, well, you do, don't you? I do anyway.
By and large, I think maybe initially, like, it depends what the beer is or whatever, but then you sort of, I think you tend to realise, if you think about it, like, everybody knows what they know. They're either enjoying the beer or not. If they're not enjoying the beer, maybe that don't come across sometimes, but everybody's got their own kind of personalities and their own spin on things, their own things they like to do. We've sort of, like, we was having this discussion before because we sort of ended up a bit more on Instagram because we were on YouTube before and we were sort of doing like after videos of like beer festivals and pubs we'd been to just because it was me and Rasko live at opposite sides of London and we'd meet up somewhere and do a little review. And then lockdown happened and we didn't really sort of develop the YouTube because I sort of struggled with doing like piece to camera beer reviews. We did a couple of lives, but then obviously we found the lives more interesting, more fun, and we just gave it a go on Instagram and got stuck with it. And now we've got 660 followers on Instagram and 66 on YouTube. So it's like, well, like, you know, if we go to YouTube, will anybody notice kind of thing? But we shall see. Quick point. What's the crack says, I would love to try a cask version of Wraggy's ale, as would I. But I don't see it coming too far south anytime soon.
That's a real funny thing you're saying that. So at my workplace, the boss, he ordered 2 casks, 72 pints each of Wraggy's Golden Ale. So the first cask, bearing in mind, me and him have never ever done anything to do. I've never done anything to do with, you know, casks. So we've got the cask, it's in place. He gets the what do you call it? The tap jobby, taps it in, goes in. It's like, hey! Connects the jobby up. Next minute, turns it on, and all of a sudden it's pissing out of this thing, and there's Wraggy's Golden Ale going all down me, all down him, all over. And we must have lost a good 15 or 20 pints. And anyway, we managed to pour it, got it out of the bar. It was all right, slightly hazy, but drinkable. So anyway, that was so many weeks ago. There's been another cask at work. There's been issues with the gas, CO2. The system they use, it's called Cask Wedge. And it's got a CO2 valve that goes into it. I don't know what the CO2 does because it's cask, but obviously it does whatever it does. But there was a leak on it. But the Wraggy's Golden Ale has gone out of date by a few weeks, so they can't legally sell it.
Yeah.
So I asked a head brewer. Couple of brewers, and I says, "Is it okay to drink?" He says, "Yeah, of course it is."
Yeah.
He says, "It's sealed. It's a sealed unit. Only when you crank it open does it. You know, you've got to drink it within a certain amount of time." So great. So I've put it into position. I've cranked it up a little bit, and I'm going to tap it when I get to work on Tuesday. Now I've got some petrol. That's another issue.
Yeah.
I've tapped it. And on Tuesday, I'm going to take to work 2 of my barrels. Well, I'm going to tap it on Tuesday, let a bit of air out, maybe pour a quick pint, you know, for
cheeky pint.
And he's going to have a barrel, and I'm going to have a barrel. And so I will have, come the Wobbling Up Beer Festival, a barrel of cask Wraggy's in the beer room.
Hey! For everybody. Adam, with his excellent knowledge, the CO2 helps the beer move around the taps. So it's part
must
of
do, yeah, must.
Super. But no, that does sound. I mean, even better. Well, as good as your face on the bottle when having a brew day, an actual cask of your own beer on your own lines.
Oh,
superb.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice, you know, just to have a few pints before we go down. And I've only got probably about a week to drink it, but I can drink 36 pints in a week if I really want to.
If you need to. But then you got so much other stuff behind you. Like, do you count them? Do you know how many you've got there, or is it just you keep adding them? Because I don't.
It's oh god, I reckon there's a good 320, and it's not just here. So let me undo my phone.
What's the crack? Says you jam your git, but you can't begrudge him it. To be fair.
Let's move away. There's a chair in the way. I've got a chair. So that's one end.
Yeah.
And then you can see that they're all the way there. All the way there. And then also I've got beer there. Beer there. all the way down there. There. Beer there as well.
And that's not even before we get to your homebrew.
And then I've got the fridge there full of beer. Although that fridge is getting turned off. And then I've got beer there as well. Homebrew all the way down there and across the floor as well. So yeah.
My days, that is some stash. That is some. I mean, I use the hashtag beer stash, and all mine is just in a cupboard and a little bit in the fridge. But that is some quite phenomenal lineup, to be fair. How do you choose which beers you're going to review? Do you just pick a random one and go with it, or do you have a plan?
No, I just pick a random one. It depends on what I feel like at the time.
Yeah.
It's. I never choose. I never, because I can. You know, sometimes you just fancy a certain beer.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's so much there. There's so much to choose from. I never really know which one I fancy at the time. It's difficult.
When you're buying beer, do you have any like criteria of ones you think will look good on the review, or beer names, or can art, or what is it? Just sort of when you're standing in front of that shelf, what do you do?
I buy as much as I can buy.
Yeah,
as much as I can afford. But obviously, there's only so much you can buy. I mean, as we know, through lockdown, there wasn't many new beers coming out. And it was dead easy to keep up with all the new stock. Then, I think it was March or April this year, all of a sudden, there was a range review at Tesco's, then one at Asda, then Sainsbury's. And all of a sudden, the amount of new beer, and that's just supermarkets, the amount of new beer was through the roof.
Well, that's the trouble. It's like, because I started buying stuff online because I wasn't really going out. I mean, I got a few at supermarkets or whatever. But every week it was just, oh, here's another release. Here's another release. Oh, I must get that. I must get this stout or that stout. It just became a little too much. In a way, there's just so much, you know. I like doing Yorkshire beers and on a Saturday because I was listening to a Yorkshire band. And that became too much because it's just like, oh, I want that. I can't afford that, you know. I think I would have lost the bet because it's after half past, but we have got Rasko in, so I suppose I better let him in. It's kind of his show. So watch out, Wraggy. Anything could happen from here on in. I do apologise. Let's see how many viewers we lose when we put Rasko on. Welcome back, Rasko. He's in from his little trip around Croydon and his 12% Norwegian Oktoberfest beer. Hang on, where's he gone? Oh, as usual, nothing works. Oh no, here it is. Here we go.
And the ratings just went through the roof, and we are hitting sky high. We are it. I mean, Sky News doesn't have what we have right now. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Rasko's here. Rasko's here. Don't worry.
Greetings, Rasko. Good to see you again. How the devil are you? How did that 12% stout go down?
Well, the 2.5 pints of it I had, went down very well. A Norwegian beer from a local venue in Croydon. It's giving me the hiccups. And I'm going to say I had a lot. Yeah. I had a lot of fun tonight. And so there you go. Support your locals, support them where you can. I might have enough beer. I might continue drinking water for a bit. Hey, Shark, I love you. I'm here. The main attraction's here. Don't worry. I know we've got Wraggy, but he's the main attraction, but I'm here.
I was just saying, I hate to break it to you, Rasko, but Wraggy's the main man right here. He's the one we've come to see, let's be honest.
Yes, I can see you now.
Yeah.
Clicked on something at the bottom, and all of a sudden I couldn't see no one.
Oh, you see the comment? Yeah, on the screen, especially when it's on a free screen. It's kind of awkward seeing the comments, but they are definitely there.
They're definitely there.
Rasko, I can tell you've had a good night out, but have you got any questions for Wraggy?
Wraggy, what's
Hello.
your favourite beer?
Oh God, that's a killer question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I actually meant if you got any good questions, but let's roll with that one.
Do you know, if it was a supermarket beer, it would have been a year ago. King Goblin, probably. Favourite Christmas beer would have been Sadler's Christmas Pudding Stout. But then Sadler's dropped the ABV from 6 to 4.5 and killed that stout. And then, obviously now in supermarkets, Vocation brought that 11.4% Imperial banana out, which is lovely. Northern Monk have brought the, what's it called? North Star.
Oh, okay, Wraggy. Let me get back to the deeps. Let me get back to the roots of Wraggy. What is the beer that got you into beer?
Ooh.
Or, you know what, not necessarily, just a beer you praise.
Probably something like Old Speckled Hen in a lot of ways, you know.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. But I've got to be honest, that was a beer I used to avoid, and I think it was on the advice of Disco. You don't take it to a house party because it puts you to sleep. Rasko, comment from Paul's beer review. Rasko's off his nut. Not quite. Almost, but not quite.
Hang on, I'm not sure. Let me let me just vocalize Paul's comment through the medium of the internet. I don't know if you could hear that, but that was Paul actually saying he's off his nut.
I'm not quite.
I still don't know what to do with that video. I can't really show it to you.
Well, you know what? Let's invite Paul. Invite Paul on just so we can say Rasko's off his nut. Invite Paul now. I command it.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
You know, Shark commenting, which nut? Exactly, which nut indeed. You know, I don't know, is it that nut or this nut? Anyway, hey, I don't know, what the hell were you lot talking about?
Well, we were talking about Wraggy's Golden Ale. We've got as far as going to the brewery, doing the brew day, and getting the bottles, getting the cask.
Mm-hmm.
What's next, Wraggy? Onwards and upwards from here. What's next? You've just passed 2,000 viewers on YouTube.
Indeed.
Wow, just keep going with that. I think I'm on 2,057 now. So in a week, it's gone up another 50.
Super. Carolyn Bruce, hello. 2050. Yeah. What are you drinking, Rasko?
Well, I'm contemplating the chocolate and vanilla stout by a brewery called Titanic. Has anyone heard of them by any chance?
Oh, yeah. Drank it many times.
I know Wraggy's the Titanic, yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. So I'm contemplating that, and I'm contemplating the hangover I get tomorrow if I do drink this.
Plenty of water.
Yeah, right. I'm going to finish my pint of water first.
Yeah. It's something
Sorry, go on, mate.
It's something I learned from the Jedi of beer reviewers, and I'm talking, the Yoda himself, Kent Beer Reviews. Water. I stayed sober for nearly 12 hours because of him and his water, beer, water, beer. And I'll tell you what, I've never done a 12-hour shift and stayed that sober. And, you know, you can't fault it.
Here's a good point from Travel and Brews. What's next? An Imperial Wraggy's Ale, or would that be a double or a triple Wraggy's Ale? I don't know. Could you have like a 8% golden ale?
It'd be interesting to see what other brewery, you know, as beer reviewers, it's an honour, isn't it? For someone to do a beer in your name, it's like, wow, you know. And, you know, if someone invited you and a brewery and says, would you like to be, and then turn around to you and say, what would you like to brew? I mean, I'd like to brew an Imperial, but no doubt. You know, something like an Imperial Plum Porter, Imperial Butter. Hey, get down here.
I don't know if you saw last week, we had Crummy Beard on, fellow Nottingham beer reviewer, and we were talking about and we both managed to whip out the Algae Plum Porter. Have you tried that one at all? Have you been up Algae?
No. Is it any good?
He didn't think so. I thought it was perfectly passable as it was similar ABV. I think obviously the Titanic is what it is, and it's a much better plum porter. But if you needed to grab one, if you was like, there's an Aldi by the station, you needed a train beer, I thought it was a perfectly good beer. I want to try it a bit more sober, so I'm going to do another review some point during the week, side by side, maybe at sea. But I thought it was perfectly palatable, to be honest. But then it was 10 o'clock at night, so I don't know.
If you're going to do a plum porter standoff, get the St. Peter's plum porter and the Titanic. And, you know, I mean, let's be fair, Titanic make 3 versions of plum porter. You've got plum porter Grand Reserve, plum porter port infused. And I've done the port infused, and I've done obviously the normal plum porter, but I've never actually done the standard stronger version of the plum porter combo. What do you call it now? I've lost it.
No, I think that's coming back out in a couple of weeks. I saw a tweet from Titanic the other day.
Yeah.
It wasn't on sale when we got our plum porter the other week for last week's show. But I think it's coming back out.
I agree with Wraggy. We've got to do a comparison of the plum porter from St. Peter's and Titanic, because you know what, the St. Peter's one ain't bad.
They are both beyond excellent beers, but they are different.
Okay.
Titanic's is slightly sweeter, more plummy. St. Peter's is slightly more beery, but together they are both amazing beers. And they're so close that it's down only to your personal preference. What you get from each beer. Yeah.
Have you tried Bateman's? But they have a dark fruits porter, which is very similar.
Yeah. It's not. It's a nice beer, mind you, but it's not in the same class. No. I tried a plum porter from Empire. Was it Empire Brewery the other week? Although I was off canned at the time, me, Jagman, and Kent, and Jagman was well canned, and I was half canned. Craig was sober, and well, it seemed sober anyway. And I had that, and that didn't taste that great. Yeah, the Titanic and St. Peter's. Oh dear, they are too amazing.
No, more than happy if I'm over that way to get in the St. Peter's, and St. Peter's got some other good beers as well out. They're kind of similar to Titanic and Lincoln Green. I'd put them all in the same sort of level, really.
Yeah, they're traditional beer companies that do modern traditional, rather than they're not craft, but they're modern traditional.
Well, that's the thing about Lincoln Green. They've got all, like, you know, your golden ales, your pale ales and stuff, but they're not afraid to put something a bit mad in a beer or something a bit different.
I think you know, you summed it up there with one term. modern traditional, because you know I was at the Czech beer event down at the Czech embassy 2-3 weeks ago, and you know there were some craft Czech brewers, and the only question I could say to them is like, why do you want to go down the craft route when you got this great tradition? And they said, well, we just like it, and no, I can't complain, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, because you've
like
got to do something different rather than, I mean, you can still use the 4 ingredients, but you can do something a bit more craftier with it, with the hops or whatever. Paul says he's got both of the Plum porters in, so he's going to do a comparison as well. So,
big comment from Hello Liam.
Comments? Where are these comments?
I've got both Plum porters. Paul's got both Plum porters, and on beer, never had either. So we'll have to record a Plum off. Do it, Paul. Do it.
I don't know. Traveller says a Plum off you could extend to at least 5-way Plum off.
Yeah, I mean, Algae make a Plum porter. Titanic. Elgood's is supposed to be really nice as well. And you know, as beer reviewers, don't you find that, say you come across a beer that it's a box ticking, unbelievable beer, and then you think to yourself, this is a new #1 beer, but to do it justice, you would have to get your old #1 beer and drink both side by side. So I can see the comments now. Bloody hell.
There they are.
I've been sitting there looking and thinking, no one's talking. I can't see nothing. Now I can see them. And I must have clicked on something by mistake. And to get both your favourite beers together, and I've done it before, you know, I've done some of the lives where I've done 1698, King Goblin, Old Crafty N, and Abbott Reserve. I did all 4 together. When I did it separately, King Goblin was my favourite beer. The winner was 1698, and it's like, bloody hell, how's that beaten all them? So it just goes to show you, as beer reviewers, you know, sometimes we need to look at doing comparison videos. And because it's amazing how when you're drinking them side by side, at the same time, you know, then you can pick it out much better and get drunk as well.
Always a bonus. Talking about next beer, Wraggy, I've got both lined up. I'm not quite sure which one to do. Should I do Buttermatch or should I do Old Bailey? Which one would you prefer live? And does it matter? Yeah,
Buttermatch.
Well, Buttermatch is a butterscotch flavoured beer, so it's a dark beer, butterscotch flavoured. Old Bailey, now there's a curious one. I drank that and I was like, Jesus. And Old Bailey is like an Irish cream pale ale. So do you like Baileys?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's a very uncool thing to say, but yeah. And all the variants.
Who cares about cool? Old Bailey would be a very interesting. I need to go for a quick wee, but Old Bailey would be a very interesting beer to see what your reactions are. You're either going to like it or you're not going to like it.
Okay, well, I'm eating this, and I think I want to do them both because they both sound. And when I found out Buttermatch was a dark beer today, watching Bullman's, I'm up for that even more. But I'm going to go with Old Bailey. But I'll wait for you to get back from your ablutions. You know, deference to you. Rasko, how's things going, sir?
This is the point where we've got to talk to each other, isn't it?
I know. What a hardship. What else did you have apart from your 12% stout down at the Oktoberfest today?
There was one other beer beginning with an A. I had 1 pint of it, and then I went down. They had 3 beers for their Oktoberfest. Let me talk about Matthew's Yard. Matthew's Yard is they are a community venue. They got pushed out of where they were about 2 years ago, just before the pandemic hit. They forced it. They got pushed down to West Croydon. They're a great venue. They had lots of community events. They had lots of craft beer. I put an apology post out on this Instagram for not celebrating them enough and not celebrating the beer they do. Now, you know what? Arguably, they might have a better venue, but not the best location. But you know, I went there today. You know what they were doing? They had a Oktoberfest thing going on, and it was fantastic. You had people, you had live music, you had German beer games, you had everything. And it was just, everyone was getting involved. It was lovely. It just chanting, dancing, brilliance. And I spoke to one of the owners. I said, I offered Rasko and Disco support, whatever that means.
Whatever you can do, fair play. That's a great comment, Titanic. Travel and Bruce. Rasko looks to have sunk that Titanic. No Titanic tonight. No, well, you're on the Titanic Stout and you're not the Plum Porter. So, how is that?
It's going down too well.
Too well, as expected. To be fair, Paul has noticed he was interested in the Old Bailey's. Like, is right. It's like Bailey's and beer are two separate entities, really, and you wouldn't expect them necessarily to mix. In fact, they're famous for not really mixing, but. My lighting in here is terrible tonight. I can't get that quite right. Let's do it like that. It's got a lovely green kind of label that looks kind of sort of old Irish cream bottle kind of thing going on. So it even looks kind of, you know, sitting by the fire, sipping a glass kind of thing going on. I will wait for Wraggy to get back to crack it.
Apologise.
There you go.
You all right, sir? No, all right, no worries. You've got a bit of a trip.
Let's go for a wee upstairs. The dog had done a wee in the hallway and the wife was not happy.
Oh dear, I bet that's a straight red card for you, isn't it?
No, that's the dog, not me.
Just blame us, Wraggy. We can take it.
We can take it, but we can't take it in our hits. Everyone, if you want to see more from us, link us up, subscribe, boost us up. When we get to 1,000, the Rasko and Disco beer show is moving to YouTube, where we can do more entertainment. No, let's talk about it. Let's never not talk about anything. We are moving to YouTube once we hit to 1,000 subscribers on Instagram.
People don't want to hear about that. Let's talk about Bailey's and beer.
Yes, they do.
Let's talk about Bailey's and beer, Raggy, because Bailey's, as Paul just pointed out, Bailey's and beer are two separate things. Bailey's famous for
think so.
But that has got a hell of a kind of sweet liqueur kind of aroma, sort of coffee. There's a little bit of toffee and butterscotch in there as well. It's very pleasant indeed. It's one I could sit and sniff, let alone drink before I get into that.
With the Old Bailey, it's if you're a fan of beer and you're also a fan of Irish cream, it brings two together. And when I reviewed it, if you watch that review, you'll see I was laughing because I'm like, what the hell? You've got Baileys and you've got beer joined together, and it shouldn't be. And it just made me chuckle.
Just on your right, I'm laughing as well. Yeah. Let's get into it anyway. Cheers again.
Yes. As for homebrew, my next homebrew, I want to do a quadruple IPA using two beer kits together.
That you haven't even done a dip or a tipper, but you want to go straight into a quad?
Yeah.
Why not? Think big, man. Think big. Fuck it. I don't see why not. That's absolutely. That is phenomenal. That is very odd, but in a good way.
Yeah, that's what they do. They do like quirky beers that work.
It is because it's pale ale. It's very clearly a pale ale.
Yeah.
But it has got that really, like, I think, pleasant sort of toffee going into coffee kind of. It's not like I did imagine originally it'd be like thick and creamy like Bailey's, but it's not. It's just got that hint of the flavour.
Yeah.
It's just got that notes of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bailey's in a stout, Bailey's in a pale ale wouldn't work, but that absolutely works. It's just got those notes. That's very interesting beer. Very interesting beer. To be fair to you, Rasko Travel Brews completely agrees with you about us going to YouTube, because you get more views over there. I think it's probably right, but it's like we said, got 66 people over there, 660 here, but we shall see what happens. We shall see what happens. 1,000 is a good number to it anyway. It's good to aim for.
Anyway,
I think, you know, growing channels, it's difficult, isn't it? You know, it's obviously it's personalities, it's what you're aiming for. I think YouTube at the moment are pushing YouTube Shorts. So,
Yeah.
Like with me, I'm doing, and I've converted to doing this. I'm doing a standard video for those people, because I get a lot of people who say to me, I don't want to wait 15 minutes for the review. But I don't do 20-second bloody reviews. So what I've done now, I'm doing sub 1 minute reviews where I'll just say, yeah, it's this, that's it. And then I'll do my proper reviews where I actually, you know, give a bit of personality and do all that. And, you know, then you're appeasing both camps, because there are some people who don't want to listen to you blur, you know, going on, you know, for whatever reason.
That's fair enough. I mean, Rasko was saying last week about, you know, it's difficult in a beer review to, you get a first impression, and Rasko like pointed out last week that you get a second and third impression as it goes down the glass. So it's like you want to do a longer beer review to get those other impressions, don't you?
Exactly. I can't do a proper 5-minute review, because if I'm drinking an Imperial Stout, as you know, it starts off a certain flavour aroma. When the air gets to the beer, it changes like a fine wine. You drink a fine wine after 20 minutes, it's totally changed. And that's what it is with all good beers. They change. And so short reviews for me are pointless. You know, longer reviews, the better. Plus you can talk a bit of shit in the meantime.
Yeah, that's it. Short review of life. Gentlemen, bear with me. Talk among yourselves, because I'm going to go and make some room for that.
well, there's comments from Paul. Sounds fantastic. Bays and beer and the entire themselves. Travel and brews. Rasko looks to have sunk that Titanic. Not quite. I'm doing it in my tasting glass. It only looks like that. I'm sucking. Travel and brews. Titanic beers are grapefruit. Shark's still here. Wraggy, what is the next homebrew? What is the next homebrew?
Two evil dogs together.
Oh my god!
IPA.
How much of, I don't know. Look, if Disco's asked this before,
yeah.
How much of a homebrewer are you?
I do try. I mean, I brewed about 6 kits, one after another, earlier this year. So I've got a load of Imperial stouts all that way. But when you've had a tough day at work, you come home and you think, I'll do a beer, and then you think, sod it, I'll crack one of these Imperial bottles open. You pour yourself a pint and you think, oh, that was nice. Shall I have another one? And one leads to another, and these things happen.
They do. They do. So to get a sense, well, I don't know. I have no idea what this guy's asked you. I want to get a sense of who is Wraggy. Why does Wraggy come on YouTube for beer?
Well, initially, I was watching TV one day, and bearing in mind I've been a gardener for 30 odd years, and and I came out of gardening, went to work in Sainsbury's. Did 5 years at Sainsbury's on the beers, wines and spirits section. Tell you what, best section ever. Cheap beers. I tell you what, you know, if you're an alcoholic, best place ever to go, because you'd be looking for the out-of-date beers and going, oh, there's one, 50 pence a bottle for a £2.50 beer. Jobs are good, and put that one to the back. And I won't tell you anything dodgy that we did, but you know, people are listening. But we get beers. I'll give you an example. Fuller's Golden Pride. We didn't sell it at Sainsbury's. £2.50 bottle of beer, always. Said to the boss, this isn't one of ours, what do you want us to do? 50 pence a bottle. All right, fair play. That never made the shop floor, you know, as you can imagine. And yeah, so in 2000 and I think it'd be 2018, I was watching Central News, and all of a sudden there's this little bloke on Central News talking about beer and doing beer reviews, and I'm thinking, I can talk shite about beers. Sure I can. You know, stand in front of a camera, talk it. I'll tell you what, it's, you know, when you think you can do it and then you start talking about beers, it's like, Jesus Christ, it's so daunting.
Yeah.
It is. It's like, what the flavours you get, and you're like, I can't get fuck all. And, and it is difficult, you know, at the start. And yeah, and you know, I like to try something new. So that, trying something new, trying new beers, and it's a great excuse to have a beer down the shed. Oh, I'm doing a beer review. Yeah. No, I'm really just going to get drunk, but I'm making out it's a beer review. And you know, she don't watch Instagram. Hope not, anyway. She does, I'm getting a bollocking. But yeah, no, I've got such an interest in different beers, both locally and national, you know, and there's so many out there and there's so many breweries that have never been reviewed. That with all the beer reviewers there are, all of us, there are tons of breweries around us that have never had a beer review, and there are some bloody gems out there. It's not the stuff in the supermarket, it's because everybody's had that stuff. It's the stuff that other people aren't reviewing. Yes. And if we all, you know, for me, supporting the locals and giving them a bit of a boost is amazing.
Absolutely, we try to do that around our way as well. Rasko obviously is a different side of London to me, so I try and do my locals. Rasko always does his locals, just so that it gets the name out as well. If, like, I used to use mostly, like, I use Twitter and Instagram for just checking out other beers of other parts of the country, and if I see one I want, and more so in the last year, I can get it in, or get it on order, or find it, or whatever, find out about it. It's absolutely a brilliant tool for that, for sure.
Do you know, it's funny, this is lockdown. Lockdown did this for me. I didn't realise that locally there were so many breweries on my doorstep.
Really?
I'd heard of Castle Rock, obviously, biggest brewery in Nottingham. I'd heard of Blue Monkey. I'd heard of Lincoln Green. But there were multitudes of breweries around Nottingham I'd never even heard of. And it's surprising what's on your doorstep. It really is. It's ridiculous.
You are, rather blessed for breweries. I always say around where I am in northwest London, it's not a great area. There is a few, but not that many. And once you sort of get out of London, the other sides of London are great, but once you get out of London, it's great just to find a new random brewery and just sort of how you connect with it and what their beers are like and finding out. It's a world of discovery.
This is why travelling, you know, when you go anywhere, travelling, checking out the local breweries, going and buying a mixed case. I love buying mixed cases of beers because it's good for me to review. And you're given a bit of exposure. I mean, you pray that the beers are decent, obviously, but, you know, can't all be decent. I mean, I've tried an Inkazi. Have you ever tried that?
I've heard you go on about Ninkasi. I think, Rasko, you've had that from Wild Beer, haven't you, Ninkasi? Is that not in your box? You had from Wild
If
Beer?
it was, I don't really remember.
I must have had it. I'm sure I've had it on the bar somewhere rather than I never ordered a bottle of it. But yeah, Wild Beer do some, well, fairly wild beers, don't they, I suppose? But I don't remember it, but I must have had it. Uh-oh, Rasko's found the filters.
Yes, I have. Okay, so yes, I found the filters. Oh look, the wildcard beers you spoke of, I don't remember. I might have, and it's just
all of the 200 breweries. All.
Yeah, indeed. I think I'm going to finish this and I'm going to go to bed. Is it Friday night or Thursday night? I don't know.
Or even Saturday.
Saturday. He's off his nut. No, you've been not been feeling top 100% today, have you, Rasko? So
his colour's changing.
Yeah, it's gone all pale. Oh, here we go.
I've gone into millions, as I am. As I am.
Is that an Instagram thing then you're doing?
Yeah, it's a filter. It's a button on there. It's,
Hello, doggy.
I'm not trying.
Are you feeling rough?
He bloody looks it.
I am actually. I'm feeling very tired, actually, right now. So, gentlemen, Wraggy, thanks for coming by. Thanks for talking about beer and what you do. I'm glad I got something out of you about how you decide. I'm going now because I'm about to pass out. Bruff.
That's great. You're a superstar. You're an absolute trooper. Thanks for popping in. Good to see you. All the best. We'll speak to you.
See you later, mate. Get some water down you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Well, there we go, Wraggy. That was an interesting first impression of Rasko.
I did watch the video actually where Rasko and Craig, Paul, and Simon were down at London. I think it was London anyway.
London Coffee.
Rasko was a tad on the abbreviated side.
Well, that's where Paul's famous comment, "He's off his nut," came from. It was just a sneaky off comment as they changed over, and Rasko was outside and sort of like was all of it. Craig sorted him out, to be fair, got him home easier. So yeah, Rasko's off his nut. But yeah, he did say to me earlier he was having a bit of pain in the shoulder and back problem. So he said we'll see. But you know, show must go on as it is.
So for those who drink homebrew, this is an Imperial honey porter. So St. Peter's do a honey porter kit.
Okay.
And I added, I can't remember how much I added, whether it was 2 kilos or 3 kilos of extra sugar. So I added extra sugar to this to ramp up the ABV. And I think it came out at something like 11%.
Oh.
I then added a litre of honey bourbon to the brew.
Oh, good man.
And it's quite the strong beer. That's the beer.
It does look spot on, yeah.
And a lovely smell of honey on the nose.
Superb.
That's it. But I've actually sent Craig. I've got to send him all the details because Craig's got all 5 of my Imperials to try. And yeah, that's it. So you really get the honey element, and the you can get the bourbon as well. It's an interesting thing. I can't wait, but I need to send Craig the actual all what the beers are, so he can actually do a proper review and see what he gets from all the beers. Should be interesting.
Shark's on his homebrew. Shark, which of the homebrews are you on? Because I know you told us about several when you've been on before, and they've all sounded amazing. So which one are you on at the minute? Do you? I mean, we tried homebrew a couple of times, and it's sort of like I haven't got the concentration for it. I think I find it really difficult to. It can be a long day depending on which one you do and how which like you choose. It's come from me because I've got a fly over there in the window.
Yeah, there's this fly that's in here. It's pissing me off. I think I've splattered him now. Since a fly on my hands. With homebrew, constant temperature needs to get one. I've got my beer now. Constant temperature is a good thing. The beer room, aka my shed, is too cold now. Doing beers in, you know, somewhere like if you've got an airing cupboard in your house. Shark's saying send him an invite.
Can do, sir. Can do. I say, if you don't mind, Wraggy, I've assumed you don't mind. An extra special guest.
I'm very easygoing. But yeah, patience is a virtue. Constant temperature. I mean, Shark will know a lot more about it than I certainly will. Good evening.
Yes. Shark, how you doing, sir? Good to see you. Cheers and all.
Cheers.
Welcome along.
So here's my homebrew. It's my amber ale. It's 6%.
Nice.
And it was supposed to be a 5%, but whoops.
What's an extra percentage?
It's a nice whoops, isn't it? You know, the extra percentage. It's like, oh,
yeah. I was a little more efficient in my brewing than I anticipated, so darn.
That's the other thing that I was never good at homebrewing because I don't understand all the maths and all the like working out and the ABVs and stuff like that. It's sort of the one I did. I just had to. In fact, me and Rasko did one, and I got the girlfriend to follow the recipe and say when to put the hops in at this percentage and stuff like that. And I'm just terrible at that. I'm better at drinking than I am brewing.
Not me.
Yeah, well, I'm working on that right now.
Yeah,
what's
that side of things.
Yeah. So what's your favourite one to brew? And that question is to both of you. What's your favourite home brew? What would you go for?
I do several styles, so I don't really have a. Well, actually, I'll put it this way: I do a pale ale every so often, and my pale ales, what I do is I'll have leftover hops from previous beers, and I'll just mix them together. So it's like, you know, I mean, I'll do Fuggles. You do mix hops that you go, you would never do such a thing. But like, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes like, okay. But yeah, I think that's kind of gives me makes it more interesting.
So are you at a stage where you're just sort of not randomly, but sort of going, well, I'll try this one, that one, see what happens, kind of thing?
Well, because I got stuff I want. Like I don't have enough hops to make another of this beer, so like, you know what? I'll just put it in this beer, kind of thing. And so because I call my pale ale Musco because basically it's everything I need to get rid of. I just throw it into one.
Mm.
Could you imagine doing that and coming up with the greatest tasting beer just by chucking them? And then not being able to replicate it because you just put the load in.
Well, because the reason I can't do that because some of my hops are 3 or 4 months old, so you kind of lose the bitterness to them. So it's obviously you can't. And so it's never. As I say, it's a one-off, and which I'm fine.
Yeah, I suppose the age of the hops as well. Yeah, it's
Yeah, he was,
variables into it that some things you just can't replicate.
But when it works, it works. I guess that's the, you know.
I mean, I never really tried to say, oh, hey, these hops really work at that time. Like, just, oh, hey, okay, I'm just going to brew another one with fresh hops just to see what it does. I haven't really done that yet. Just like, you never know. I'm like, hey, I discovered something good, but I just never,
What about you?
I brew from kits.
Uh-huh.
So there was a kit for me from Love Brewing in the UK, and it was an Imperial Russian Stout last Christmas, and I brewed that, and it was amazing. In the early days of homebrew kits, you could taste the beer, and it tasted home brewing. You know, it didn't taste anything near commercial. This Russian Stout kit was as good as any commercial Imperial that I've ever tasted. Absolutely gobsmackingly good. I mean, it was £1 per pint, or 500 mils probably in the US, but equivalent. But it was a pound, so that'd be $2 probably, near enough. About 150 these days. But yeah, an amazing Imperial Stout. The quality was absolutely gobsmacking for a homebrew. You know, they've really developed over the years.
Yeah. So did you, I don't remember, Wraggy, did you ask, I mean, did they give you a choice of what style of beer that you wanted to make, or was this kind of?
No, they invited me down. They'd already got the Wraggy's Golden Ale. They gave me a picture of this. Not that actually, it wasn't as shiny as that. That's shiny, that.
Yeah.
And they said, this is what we're going to brew. Because I tell you, if it had been me, I'd have probably chose something different. But as a brewer, you got to look at what's going to sell.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What they did in the UK, I don't know about the US because obviously it's different. But in the UK, a golden ale at 3.8% is going to appeal to a lot of pub drinkers.
Yeah.
And whereas past craft beer fans, Imperial Stouts would have been or a triple IPA, But this is like a traditional modern brewery, so they are sticking to something that's going to sell to a lot of traditional beer drinkers.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to be involved. I mean, if I'm being honest, in the future. And I have been putting feelers out there, letting people know that what I'd love to do is to brew something Imperial strength with the brewery. And, this is weird. For me, it's an interesting thing. This company is clever because they've used the power of social media, i.e. YouTube and that, to thank a beer reviewer, but also get their name out there as well. And it's clever marketing, and they've done well.
Yeah. What's the feedback then from Lincoln Green, Wraggy? Is it something you reckon they'll do again? I mean, you can't necessarily expect them to put it on their core range or anything, but has it been that popular?
I've not heard a lot from them actually. I mean, I was surprised when it made it into bottles, so that was a big thing. They don't put stuff into bottles regular. So for this to jump the queue of all their beers they brew to get into bottles, that was something.
Well, that's a special beer, so, I mean.
Yeah, I think that was another good way of getting it out more as well, because just on cask in the Nottinghamshire area, it's going to get the name out in Nottinghamshire, but less so, unless we get some bottles out. I mean, we was all chomping at the bit, I think, on the social saying, when's the bottles coming out, and finally we're pleased to get them. So
I think that's what did it, I think the people emailing them and saying, is Wraggy's coming to bottle? And people saying that kind of forced their hand into, oh, it might be an idea to actually put this into bottle. And both my workplaces have actually got this in bottle on sale at my workplaces now, because obviously there's a positivity from it. You know, I moved from a crap job into a very good job, and I'm a gardener and at my workplaces, and for them it's good social media. And you'd be surprised these days, social media is so powerful. And
yeah, I was kind of interested because I looked up the golden ale. I thought the golden ale would be a little bit more high in ABV, and I was going like, wow, it's like in the 4%, kind of like that. Because here, they're in the U.S., they're doing Kona Brewing. They're promoting their golden ale. I'm going, okay, they call it Big Wave. I'm going, okay, that's got to be a big beer. And all of a sudden, looking at it, well, it's like 4%. Here, I'm going like, and yours is like 3 point. I'm going like, wow, okay, that's just. But I'm pretty good. You got to get that big golden ale. Okay, you're gonna get a high ABV, and it's right up Wraggy's alley kind of thing. I'm going like, also like, wow, okay, that's interesting.
I guess
the name
it's an irony thing, isn't it? It's not that big at all.
Yeah, it's just basically it's an ale. I mean, it's like I said, it's a pub ale kind of, you can say. But you would think golden ale to me would be like it's something a little bit more bigger beer than your like lager pilsner kind of thing. But so
it's funny, you know, because since this has come out, I've got a lot more contacts in the UK beer industry, and there's a brewer called Emperor's Brewery.
Yes.
And he's I think he's the highest rated brewery in the world. There's one higher, but that's a brewery in Florida that does mead. So you can't count them as a beer brewery because they do mead. And I've been putting the feelers out there between some of these breweries and saying that I'd love to do a Wraggy Avenue, i.e. a big Imperial Stout, and do it with some of these breweries. You know, sometimes you have to, I'm a gardener, so you have to drop a few seeds out there and see if anybody takes it.
It's got to be Raptor though, doesn't it? They do big beers. It's got to be a bit of
well, I've actually commented on Raptors a few times, and I thought to myself, let's see if they take the bait, and they haven't yet, but you know.
You almost go back to where you went now, and if your beer sells really good, they'll try it again and say, hey, now can we try this now? Kind of thing.
I think Lincoln Green in the future they are looking at doing bigger beers. So they have done a beer called Fire Damp, which is an 8.5% old ale.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. But you know, Imperial strength, and so they can do big beers. So, and it'd be interesting to see where things go. You know, as somebody who just reviews beers, to get somebody to do a beer in your name's amazing. Anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, that was amazing to see that. I go like, wow, because I've never seen that here. I mean, you see collabs from brewery to brewery kind of thing, but you don't see like a YouTuber that kind of collab. So that was very interesting and very impressive that you were able to pull that off.
I'd like to see more of it, because for the beer reviewers that do good reviews, positive reviews, then they're doing good for the trade, and we're all in it together in a certain way, aren't we?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I know how happy you are. I mean, I said this in the video, and I was lucky enough last year. My local brewery, a couple of miles down the road from me, they messaged me on Instagram because we'd done a couple of things with them, and we chatted to them. I'd met them and stuff. And then, funny enough, they're called Mad Yank, and it's an American couple. They were kind of over here in the forces and just kind of stayed, quit the forces, and started a brewery. And everybody said, well, that's mad. That's a mad thing to do. Why would you do that, you mad yank? And he stuck with that with the brewery name. But he messaged me and said, we're doing a sour what do you reckon? What would Disco do? Do you want cherries or apricots? And I'm like, definitely cherries for a sour.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear anything more of it. And then the beer came out, and it was called Disco Duck. And he's put my name on the back of the label. I'm like, happy days. Unfortunately, unlike, I didn't get to go and shovel any malt or anything. But, well, it was locked down, so I couldn't anyway. But so, yeah, I know how happy Wraggy is of actually getting face on the label and getting a bit of brewery day as well. It's phenomenal. It's just such a great thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's certainly grown the channel. The channel, I mean, it's weird. You know, when you go into a supermarket, I went into a supermarket in Nottingham, and bear in mind, they've got these chuffing face masks on like that. And I'm walking around with the wife, and it's my old workplace. And this lad looked at me, and I thought, he looked at me a bit strange, you know, because obviously I've worked on public parks, so I'm used to people looking at you in a certain way. And I thought, he gets me a right strange look. Didn't think nothing of it. Carry on walking around the store. Next minute, him and his girlfriend walked up to me and says, "You're Wraggy." And I'm like, and shit.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell. And I thought, and that was the first time, and it hits you like a brick, and you feel such a twat, you know, an idiot. You're like, Jesus Christ. You know, you talk on YouTube, you think no one's going to recognise you, and then you're in a supermarket and someone's come up to you, and it's weird. It's
a surprise. I mean, I've only had that. Well, again, I'm not trying to combat or like come up against you, but it's like I walked into a pub, the Hart pub in Covent Garden in London. It's quite a well-known kind of cask ale pub, like on the circuit kind of thing. And I walked up, and I've been in there a few times, and we've done a few tweets and whatever. And I walked up, and the manager looked at me and went, "Are you Rasko or Disco?" I nearly fell over. He'd known the names, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I'm Disco, but how did you know? Oh, I've seen your stuff, like, happy days, like, you know, and it is that feeling of like, okay, all right, we're doing okay.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it, to get recognised?
Yeah.
See, I went with Craig, Kent Beer Reviews, down to Nottingham's Craft Beer Festival. And I suffer from bad anxiety, so going to a beer festival is quite a big thing for me. Anyway, we're there, and at Nottingham's Craft Beer Festival, there was a brewery called Bang the Elephant that hadn't been invited. And 2 weeks before, I said to them, I says, "Oh, what beers you bringing to the beer festival?" He says, "Oh, we haven't been invited. We've been asking for 3 years, not been invited." So I went on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and I kind of kicked off and says, "What's going off? Local craft beer company not been invited." And lo and behold, 3 days before the beer festival, they got invited. Now, I don't know whether that was something to do with me stirring it a little bit, or it was just timing, you know.
You'll never know.
No one would admit to me what happened.
It was me. I did it, and just kind of roll with it.
I won't admit to it, but it's quite interesting. If it was that, wow, you know, do they listen to people? It's interesting, but
all it takes is that one tweet, that one message, like, you know.
Sometimes I think public pressure, you know.
You'd be surprised the beer community sometimes. They will listen. They at least listen to you. I mean, kind of thing. So sometimes if you have a good enough idea, like or oops, if they kind of made a mistake, they'll fix it. Because I've seen that something similar here and there, where it's other breweries will say, "Hey, how come they're not here?" And so they got a little more clout, obviously. But
yeah, just hearing the name.
I think when beer reviewers, and I'm talking about the ones who do reviews where if there's a constructive criticism of a beer,
yeah,
and if it's right, because it's, you know, if you drink something and you say, "Oh, I got this and this from this, is this meant to be?" And they look at it and think, "God, this is right," or he or she's right, then it's an interesting thing for the brewery to say, "Right, then we need to tweak this beer." When someone you know, you get. I heard a review the other week where a beer had got 1 out of 10, and it was an Imperial Banana Stout from Vocation. And for me, that beer reviewer was wrong. And I won't name his name, but you know, and in that way, you know, if you do a review and it's a shit review, and then you're downgrading your status, aren't you? In some ways.
Every once in a while, I think this is they do a brewery does a beer, and all of a sudden they kind of know something's wrong, and you basically find it. Then they go. So basically, you're confirming their suspicion. They're thinking. So that okay, yeah, it's because sometimes there are certain people like the breweries around here. There are certain people that they'll go and say, hey, yeah, your beer is bad, good, or whatever. They'll go like, okay, because they got credibility, kind of a thing, and they'll go, okay, and then they'll tweak it or kind of thing. But there's other people that go, yeah, thank you for blah blah blah, and they just kind of move on. But there's certain people that they will say, hey, yeah, okay, they're spot on, I agree, and then they'll tweak it.
I mean, we had in England, we had well, in the UK, we had a beer from a supermarket, Algae, called It's Jamming or something along the line, and it was woeful. It got bad reviews across the board. Even non-beer reviewers were slagging it off. It was absolutely terrible. And I reviewed it about 5 months later, and it was much better. It wasn't great, but it was much better than the original. The original beer was, you drink it and you're like, oh, my stomach, you know, your stomach was quenching because of the beer. It was.
And do you know what? You know what, Wraggy? That is still on the shelf for Aldi. They haven't taken any notice of any of the reviews. It's still on the shelf. I was there the other day picking up that Plum Porter, and it was still there. And I'm like, well, I've seen all them reviews. Even for £1.39, I ain't taking a chance. I don't really care enough, you know.
It's better now. Yeah, it's a better beer now. But yeah, it was a bit woeful at the time.
Well, I was, because I'm in Los Angeles, and I went to San Diego one weekend, and I went to a bottle shop, and there was a local brewery that I knew of. And I walked in that shop, and I was like, I looked at the bottles and going like, oh my God, that beer they have on the shelf is 2 years old, and it's like, yeah, that shouldn't be on the shelf. And it's on the shelf, it's warm. I went, oh, that's definitely not gonna. So I called the owner of the brewery and goes like, you know, blah blah. He goes, really? He goes, yeah. So next thing, he's going to, yeah, thank you for calling, because they were getting a lot of complaints about these guys. They're going, yeah, your beer is bad. They're going like, no, what? Because the beer is so old, kind of thing. So I was like, hey, so a lot of times they're going like, so.
It's amazing in America. You know, the last time I was in America was 2013 in Orlando, and I went to Walmart, and it's really strange going to Walmart in America. So basically our version of Asda, and they've got a gun department, and it's like, the fuck? The same guns in a supermarket. What's that about? Anyway, you walk down the beer aisle, you've got a UK aisle, and it's like, whoa, a UK aisle? And it's like, yeah, that's funny. And then they've got the beer aisles, and there's a fucking Budweiser aisle with about 20 versions of Budweiser, and you're like, shit, fucking hell, how many Budweisers can you have?
Yeah, we have one.
I was looking to pick up Blue Moon, a mixed box set with agave flavoured beers, some amazing beers, and I think that was very early in the craft beer, well, certainly in the supermarkets at least.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Brewdog. I worked at Sainsbury's in the UK, and I think it was late 2010, early 2011 when Brewdog went into supermarkets. Nobody drank it. It was 6 cans for £6.50, and it was priced above everything else. And people were looking at it thinking, what's this shit? And no one bought it. And I ended up buying it when it was going out today. 6 cans for £1. So, yeah.
Yeah,
now they've weakened it down, and it don't taste anything near the same anymore. So
yeah.
Gents, bear with me a second. I'm going to put this back in the stash because I'm not having this now, but I'm going to grab a quick stout just to finish off with. I'll be back in a second.
bless you.
So yeah, that's my. What I'm envy of you guys over there is the supermarkets, because I go in my supermarket and it's all Budweiser or InBev. So you got a lot of other beers. You got Goose Island, a couple other things. It's like there's basically it's not much selection. Like when you guys go out, you got all the breweries. I'm like, I have to go to a bottle shop to get kind of it from the different breweries, because if not, I have to travel to the brewery to go get a 4-pack or whatever of the beer and kind of thing. So it's like it's very limited here, which is like, I'm like, look at what they're doing over there. Like, come on, guys. So it's like, and we do get a bottle shop, and again, it's limited to certain things. I'm like, oh, come on, you got down the street here, you got excellent beer. Why don't you selling it? But it's just, well, because we're only just, our distributor is blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, you guys are missing out on big sales because you got a brewery down here that makes excellent beer and you can't sell it. I'm going like, that's a crime, I would say.
When I was at Sainsbury's, I tried to tell them that if you sell local beers from local breweries, you are going to make a lot of money, because Nottingham people want beers from their local breweries. If you have a regional section of beers, you don't have to have a massive section. I mean, they sell enough crap in supermarkets to donate a small section towards local beers. And then Sainsbury's, sadly, never took me up on it. And now there's bottle shops galore in Nottingham selling local beers, and now the explosion in the UK. You've got your pubs, but locally you've got pubs who sell local beer. You've got what we call micro pubs, so they sell lots of local beers on cask and keg. And they're doing really, really well because their range of beers is changing on a daily basis. And as we all are, as beer drinkers, we're like kids, adult kids. So we go into a place, we see something new, it's like, oh, that's new. I'll have that because it's new. And it may not be the greatest, but it's new.
Yeah.
And this is something that the supermarkets in the UK don't understand. The micro pubs do understand. They're doing well. And they're much smaller. They're catering to beer drinkers who want all different styles of beers, and even in bottles or cans, but certainly on keg and on cask. And they're doing really well because of it.
Yeah, that's like the cask of the breweries. I keep telling them, you need to do the real ale, the cask, because when you get the beer engine, I miss this. The beer comes out, it's like so great. But what they'll do here sometimes, they'll put it in the cask and put the beer engine, but it's carbonated. Well, like, okay, well, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. Well, because it's a gimmick. The real ale here sometimes is a gimmick, and I'm like, oh, come on. So every once in a while, you'll get some people that we do have a brewery here. It's called Yorkshire Brewery, and everything's all on cask. So it's all pulled by beer engines, and they know how they do it correct. So it's like, and they're booming. It's like, well, see, look at what these guys are doing. You should do it, kind of thing. So, but it's just because we have a festival here once a year. That's basically called the real. Well, it used to be the rail. Now it's called Frickenfest because that's what we call the casks, Frickens. So that's all it is. So it's like, so you go there and it's just like, oh, real ale. You get real ale. That's all it is. Everything's real ales. And we're like, oh, it's so great. But that's just not a thing here because everybody wants that overcarbonated beer or whatever.
Here's a good one for you. I don't know if you've seen this one, Wraggy. A little bit something different. I just grabbed it out of the stash a little bit randomly. I've never got around to doing it. I brought it in because it was something different, right? Pocket tin. Kendall mint cake stout.
That's different, isn't it?
Yeah, so Kendall mint cake, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's kind of famous. It's like a minty chocolate candy sweet stuff, just mint and sugar with chocolate around it that the like hikers use in the mountains up in the Lake District. So yeah, it comes from Romney's Kendall mint cake. I actually got some Kendall mint cake in when I got this in. I've never got around to doing a review of it, but it comes from Raven Hill up in the Yorkshire Dales.
Right, yeah.
Part of the reason is because doing that Old Bailey, I don't know why, I got a kind of a little back end of sort of a little minty back end of it as well, which is a bit weird for Bailey's, but that's a proper, like an after eight mint in a glass. That's
right, yeah.
Proper smooth, proper minty. It's amazing. I do like to finish on a stout.
It's amazing, isn't it? You know, the varieties of beers these days. Whatever style, whatever your flavour that you like, there's a beer for it, isn't there? You know.
Pretty much. I've never ceased to be amazed by the random shit they make into beer these days. You know, all the random stuff that comes out recently, like the Marmite beer. You know.
Yeah, fucking Marmite. It was, and I could taste the Marmite in it. And I actually gave my wife, because my wife's, she's not a beer drinker, and I'm trying to get her into beers, only to stop me getting moaned at. And and I gave her this beer, and I says, "What did you get from this?" Oh Jesus, Marmite! And straight away she got it. Straight away.
Super.
And she didn't like it, but I like Marmite, so for me it was okay.
I haven't bothered to walk across town to Tesco's to get that. I might do maybe next week. I've got a bit more time. What's the weirdest beer then, Wraggy, that you've seen? The weirdest like ingredient or adjunct that you've seen in a beer that you've had? It might be Marmite, I don't know, but you know.
I don't know. It's a strange thing, isn't it?
What about you, Kevin? What's your? I mean, you probably get a few more weirder stuff over there, I guess. What's your weirdest?
Yeah, well, it's what we probably have. I would agree with that. We probably have a lot of weird stuff. I'm just trying to think of what if I even tried one. I probably saw it. Went, no.
Have you tried that pickle juice beer that I've seen about? It's American eminent.
No.
Wasn't there a KFC flavored beer in America?
Well, there's so many. You got the cereal beer. I mean, there's a lot of different off beers here. It's just like you see so many of them. Like I was like, yeah, no, it's not my cup of tea kind of thing.
There was a mustard one this year as well.
Yeah, because a lot of those beers I do see, but they're a different part of the region. So I was like, well, they won't make it out to here, kind of California. So I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, like, if there is any strange ones, I will do a little taster. Just give me a little sample because I'm just not
going to buy it off.
Yeah, I'm going like, yeah, no.
Yeah, Louis's got a good point in the comments there. The cheese and onion Seabrook crisp, cheese and onion crisp flavour beer that came out from Northern Monkish here. I gave that a swerve. I wasn't going to get into that one, but because they also done a prawn cocktail ghost as well, and I weren't getting into that either.
I drank the prawn cocktail ghost. It was very forgettable.
I mean, it wasn't
nice.
I did do Northern Monk's Sunday lunch one last week. Last year, that had like potatoes in it supposedly and seaweed and whatever.
Oh,
that was quite nice. Yeah. I quite like that. It was a decent brown ale.
Yeah. So probably about 3 o'clock my time in the morning, I'll probably come up with that off on beer. Going, okay, yeah, here's my answer to that question, kind of thing. But.
Definitely let us know. I'd be quite interested. But also, Shark, I think at some point you need your own show on Rasko and Disco. We've been sort of working up to it. we'd be happy to have you along at some point. We've got a few shows planned next couple of weeks, but if you want to come on and have a chat at some point, you'd be most welcome.
No problem. Yeah, I'm going to be on John's 24-hour live next week.
Oh, yeah, we're doing something. I don't know. He hasn't told us what we're doing, but we're doing something for that. So.
Yeah, well, so basically what's going to happen is I'm doing the Q&A with Thomas during that. I think we're planning to do it then.
Oh, sweet.
So so basically, because Thomas this past week asked me if I want to do an interview. I'm like, okay. So he asked me to do next Saturday. Well, I'm kind of helping John out. I said, well, maybe we'll put that into there because that'll kill a couple hours for John. And John goes, yeah, do it, please. So we'll probably do that there. I would love to come on with you guys and kind of just chat between America and UK beers and whatnot, as long as Rasko's not on the net.
Who knows if I mean, to be fair, like the other week, I'd had a couple of big beers before the show because I was doing some posts and it was relevant, and I was fairly wobbly, to be fair, but so it's okay. You know, cover for each other, it's fine. But go ahead. Yeah, no, carry on. It's right, fine. Well, what I was going to say was, obviously, what we kind of do it as a show rather than obviously like a general sort of chat. So we kind of try and keep it under 2 hours, and we're 10 minutes off the 2 hours. And I want to thank Wraggy for popping on and coming for a beer. It's been really enjoyable, sir. It's been a great fun. I've really enjoyed having Wraggy's Golden Ale on the show, and enjoyed having you on the show and having a chat. We'll catch up at some point around the internet somewhere, YouTube, obviously. The reason I keep it under 2 hours, if you don't mind, gentlemen, what I normally do is I upload the show onto YouTube, onto our YouTube channel on a Monday. So if you don't mind appearing on YouTube, I'll do that as well. But I keep it under 2 hours because otherwise the file size is a bit mental and it takes me fucking ages to upload it.
Yeah, actually, it was good timing because I was about ready to say, hey, I got to go. So it was good timing.
Okay.
And I'm no more beer. So good time to end.
Well, we already made you have one more by the sound of it.
Oh, no, it was all good. No. So, anyways, I appreciate inviting me on for this little bit. Good talking to you, Wraggy. Even though, so good evening.
Well, we'll see you next week. So
anyways, farewell. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks very much indeed. Awesome. Good stuff. There we go. It's been a bit chaos as usual tonight, Wraggy. Wraggy, I hope you don't mind the the general chaos of the Rasko and Disco show.
Well, YouTube's like that as well, isn't it? You know, YouTube, you see people coming and going, and luckily you don't get no spam. When I can see the comments, you haven't had no issue, no trolls. I mean, when my live was really quite busy, you know, at one stage we was getting up to 60 people, and we was getting some, you know, people. I had to put a load of moderators on because I can see the comments, as you can. Yeah. And you're like, what's this? And I tend to, as a comment comes in, I cooperate with the comment. And then you see negative comments, and it's like, what's that about? And in the end, I had to get people to moderate to get rid of those comments, because otherwise it threw me off, and you know, you don't want it anyway.
Well, we've been fairly lucky here in that I think we had one slightly bad comment back in the day on Twitter where I'd reviewed a cider. There's a cider company called Snail's Bank that I really like. And I've given it a it's really tasty, blah, blah, blah. And there's just one comment, and he just went, it's shit. Oh, well, thanks for your incisive, like, constructive comment there, mate. Lovely. So I gave him some, like, spiel about, well, it reminds me of, like, apple and rhubarb crumble with custard that my late nana used to make with the old apple trees from the garden.
Yeah.
Serve that. So like, yeah, you try and take the mickey out of my dead nana, bitch. You know. I heard nothing else back from Snail's Bank. But apart from that, we've been like last week. A couple of weeks ago, there was a guy going on about carling, and I don't know who he was. He was obviously a follower of who we was interviewing. I think it was Paul actually, and he was banging on about carling, and I'm like, I'm not sure you know what we're talking about here. But that's literally all we've had. So we've got really lucky, which will probably we'll get a load of grief next week. But it is difficult, isn't it?
It is. I think as you get more popular, them sort of people seem to come along.
Yeah.
And just ignoring them is probably the best advice in that respect. Yeah.
Oh, we did have one where there was this girl who was trying to chat up the bloke we was interviewing, the guy we was interviewing up north from Time for a Brew podcast, and he'd already said about his girlfriend, and she was trying to ask for his number. So that was a bit awkward, but it's sort of, I think most people that come into the lives are people we know, so we're generally okay here. And that's another reason for like staying here rather than going to YouTube, but we'll discuss that with Rasko, you know. It's kind of funny in a way. You have to deal with everything, don't you?
Well, if you want to grow a channel, I suppose you do, don't you? No, it's interesting to see where it goes, because YouTube, Instagram, it's nice when it's a certain size. Then as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, then it gets interesting, you know. And then you bring certain people out of the woodwork, and then you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, this is getting a bit too personal." You know, you're worried about your personal life, and it's interesting. And I've seen YouTubers who were very much like I am at the moment on 2,000, and now they're on 400,000, and they live off YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
The money they make comes from YouTube. They don't go to work; they live off it, and it's like, wow.
I've seen a couple of them were brilliant. It's a great idea, and it's like, well, I wish I thought of that 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wish I'd have done beer reviews 10 years ago.
Same if I knew about it. I tell you what, on that note, who knows where we go from here? But let's just enjoy it and just enjoy the. That's the main.
Enjoy the ride.
I want to thank you so much for coming on and enjoying a beer with us again. If anybody's watching this on YouTube after the event, thank you very much, and go follow Wraggy's Beers, Wines and Spirits Reviews on YouTube, on Instagram. And Wraggy, we'll see you around, hopefully on your YouTube lives later on in the week and going forward. Thank you. Enjoy Nottingham Craft Beer Festival.
It's going to be great. There's going to be a lot of videos. Oh dear, oh dear.
We'll be right behind you, sir. I will get up to Nottingham next year, so we'll catch you in Nottingham at some point next year, I guess.
Yeah, big awesome. Would be awesome. A big beer review meetup. Oh, that'd be something. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, big YouTube collab-ageddon. That's not the right word because that's an actual thing with Elusive. But yeah, we'll meet for a beer at some point. Until then, as always, YouTube.
Right.
Wraggy, you're a superstar. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers to you. Later. All the best. Cheers. I say that's the finish, but I never know how to finish these because I don't normally do it. Rasko does, so.
Click the X button or something.
That's it, yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, Wraggy.